Mr. Hüseyin Keskin, the mayor of Sultanbeyli, the director of Agenda 2030, Barcelona director Ramon Overas, Hüseyin, the Izmir Sustainable Urban Development Network coordinator, Mr. Vural Çakır, the British president, and IS Turkey director Tamer Ataburut. Welcome. In this session, we would like to highlight the importance of establishing sustainable development goals and voluntary local review reports in realization of global goals. We have many speakers from Colombia, Spain, Turkey, and we will be hearing the motivation of cities and countries in preparing the voluntary evaluation reports. We will try to understand how the reports actually contribute to both local and national policies. Most importantly, we'll be asking the question, can there be one interaction between the reports and national reports? And we will seek an answer to the question, and we will try to look at the work carried out by cities within the perspective of sustainable development goals, and moreover, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on these studies. We, as SDSL Turkey, with the support of Union of Municipalities of Marmara since 2009, we're happy to carry out many trainings such as sustainable cities and climate change and local sustainable development goals, training local governments, and to provide training and consultancy services in voluntary local evaluation reports and software processes. Our main goal in these works is to achieve sustainable development goals for all segments of society, but primarily to our municipalities. And to convey why it is necessary for municipalities and to urgently support these efforts as a city stakeholder with various activities for almost 8 years of action, we are still working. According to the estimates of the United Nations Department of Economic Social Affairs, 70% of the world's population by 2050, the world will have to accommodate 6.5 billion people and have poverty, unemployment, access to infrastructure services, will have problems in epidemics, natural disasters due to climate change, and migration problems. And we are still having these in today's conditions. And we are constantly talking about the challenges that are difficult to come because of sudden urban floods with rainfall, climate change. Are we ready for this? Or we're asking the questions, how will we grow food in our cities? Even today, we have to use water consciously and administratively under the current conditions as well. Will we continue to shave our parks and gardens while we're experiencing thirst? Or what solutions should we come up with? What are we going to do about children, the elderly, the sick, those who need care, public health? In these days, when we need to fight the climate crisis, one of the most vexing problems is the problem of unemployment, how we can improve the climate resilience adoption, perhaps how to guide the climate entrepreneurs. And we talk a lot about these and other questions, actually. Voluntary evaluation reports are also carried out by countries and cities on sustainable development goals at both national and local levels. The studies, they are looking for answers to these questions reveal as up-to-date answers. So what happens in the writing of these reports? How do reports benefit us? We will try to understand the answers to these questions by listening to experts and making policies with experience from different countries and cities. So in the first round, we have a time limit of 10 minutes. We will get the answers of all participants within 10 minutes. If we have time, we will be getting those answers for another 3 minutes. So now, after this introduction, I would like to give the floor the Panos Sebastian, the Regional Ministry Cities Coordinator. Here, again, will be hosting esteemed Janet Malagón González, the Minister of the Ministry of Housing and Regional Affairs of Colombia. But due to his meeting, which is urgent, he conveyed both his brand successes, his thanks for the invitation, and I would like to share it on this occasion, if you will.
Juan, I would like to just introduce my first question. Do you involve local governments in the voluntary national review process and how to improve articulation between voluntary national reviews and voluntary local reviews, which elements define this coordination? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone there in Turkey. So on behalf of Colombia's Minister of Housing, City and Territory, Jonathan Malagón, thank you very much for this invitation. As you mentioned, my name is Juan Sebastián Herrera, and I'm currently the leader of a strategic group created here within the ministry that is responsible for the drafting process of Colombia's new national urban policy. So thank you very much again for this invitation. Okay, so regarding the first question on how we involve local governments in the voluntary national review process, I have to say that the National Planning Department here in Colombia and the Technical Secretariat of the Sustainable Development Goals Commission, the SDG Commission here in Colombia, oversaw the elaboration of the voluntary national review process for Colombia in 2021. In order to respond to the multi-stakeholder participation approach outlined in the 2030 agenda, this report's elaboration process has been based on a collective construction, taking under consideration the multiple contributions and inputs from different stakeholders on particularly the challenges and possible actions to counteract the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, the voluntary national review recognizes the contributions and efforts that have been made by national and local government representatives, as well as by different actors from the private sector, civil society, academia, international organizations, among others, towards the implementation of the Sustainable Development Agenda. This report, in particular, for the case of Colombia, highlights the advances in the implementation of multi-stakeholder platform that we have established here in Colombia, conceived as a participation space that has a main objective, which is reinforcing the dialogue and knowledge management of different interested stakeholders towards sustainable development in the country. The SDG Commission that I already mentioned prepared and shared the base document with all ministries, administrative departments, local governments, and other agencies of the Colombian government, and all the comments and inputs were incorporated in order to complement all the proposed sections that we designed from the national government. In addition, different workshops, at least 75 workshops between different actors were held, allowing the participation of any person and or also organizations that are interested in contributing to the construction of this very important report. So moreover, I have to say that the country has other type of tools such as web pages, online surveys, and social networks intended to promote the SDGs and also very strategically to communicate the existence and importance of this voluntary national review for us to make sure that local governments also use it while they're planning for the local development in like different and new administrations in the years to come. Regarding the second question that you asked me on how to improve this articulation between voluntary national reviews and voluntary local reviews, I have to say that the voluntary local review is an opportunity for local and regional governments to appropriate the 2030 agenda and to take responsibility. This is very important. The responsibility for the actions they can take to achieve the proposed goals. At least 65% of the 169 Sustainable Development Goals targets depend on the work of communities and urban local governments, right? This is a figure that we got from Cities Alliance. So in this regard, recognizing the role of the local government in achieving the 2030 agenda, the United Nations Development Program, the National Planning Department here in Colombia, and in general, the Colombian network of cities called How We Go. This is the name of this network that we created and who decided to join some efforts to consolidate an implementation strategy of the Sustainable Development Goals. It's very important as a monitoring, reporting, and a change mechanism at the subnational government. Therefore, the mentioned entities developed this voluntary local review guide for 2020 with the aim of motivating and facilitating the elaboration of local reports by municipal administrations, strengthening their actions and evaluation frameworks, and opening the space to share experiences among other cities. The local reviews here in Colombia will be the inputs for the national report. This is kind of the mechanics that we have here for the consolidation of this program, of these reviews at both different levels of government. And all municipalities in Colombia are required to submit the voluntary local reviews regardless of their size, right? Whether it is a big city like Bogota that has roughly 9-10 million people, or if it is a small municipality in rural Colombia. So we are requesting those organizations and local governments to submit it. The preparation of such reports requires, as you know, a lot of effort and resources, as well as political administrative commitment of the local government. So the guide that we created recommends that each municipality should designate an entity or a person, a professional in the local administration that is responsible for the elaboration of this report, which will be assigned according to the municipality's capacities. And finally, just to wrap up my first intervention, to define a first element of coordination, the guide that we created presents a set of minimum indicators, a complex process due to, as you know, the diversity of territories and their priorities. Urban Colombia is also very heterogeneous. So this is a very particular situation that we have, as probably other countries also have. So however, these municipalities have to report at least the required minimum of information that we established in the formulary and in this guide on the established indicators, right? This is important for us to make sure that we have kind of a same standard of information to be reported. Furthermore, in order to improve the articulation and to define the need, the needed coordination strategies between different scales, the national government is currently working on the construction of different and new tools that will strengthen this process of landing the review process in different territories and the local monitoring, reporting, and evaluation processes regarding of the sustainable development goals, targets, and indicators that have to be included in this national report. Thank you very much. This will be my first intervention.
All right, thank you very much, Juan. It's an excellent presentation.
So we're going to the next presentation. As Juan said, we saw how well Colombian government upholds the sustainable development goals of the Colombian state, both on a national and local basis, with the system they're trying to develop. And with the system they have established, actually an important established, they attach great importance to the issue of coordination, and then they are developing new instruments for this, and every stage in harmony, they have many reports from different views being written at every two levels that are being written between municipalities and national governments. We see there is a great harmony with these reports. Now I'd like to get to Mr. President. So welcome, sir, first of all, as the district. You are the one who wrote Turkey's first local evaluation report. I'm honored to address to you today. Where did you get your inspiration when you prepared the local review report of the volunteer local evaluation report for Sultanbeyli? And what was the motivation that led you to this writing process? And what were the difficulties you faced? Yes, floor is yours, sir. Thank you. I offer you my regards, and to our guests, if you allow me, as a district that first rewrote the evaluation report, I owe debt and gratitude to my colleagues. No matter the city you are in the world, you have to deal with global problems. The whole world struggled as a part of the same problem. And the process has shown us that cities are highly sensitive to the effects of global crises and that solution can also be developed locally. Towards the establishment of Sustainable Development Goals, I think we need to realize that we need to act as soon as possible. Before the pandemic, as a district, Municipality of Istanbul, we carried out many studies for establishment of Sustainable Development Goals at institutional level. Therefore, the start date of these studies dates back to before the pandemic. In this context, our objectives and activities, which are included in our strategic plans and activity reports, are matched with Sustainable Development Goals. With the pandemic process, we moved our approach to sustainable development one step further and started to address localization and more comprehensively. Sustainable goals offer us a method to develop solutions to global problems in general. However, I must state that in order for this method to be applied healthily, it's necessary to approach local holistically. This necessitates the cooperation of all institutions and organizations working independently of each other for local development. We have shown sensitivity to this in voluntary local evaluation report we have prepared for our district, and we collaborated with all institutions to achieve one true localization. First of all, we determined the current situation together by combining the data of all institutions. We have set general goals for the district, and then we create indicators according to responsibilities of all institutions and organizations in each district in order to be able to monitor its development and evaluate the effects of services. The other issue we need to look at in order to evaluate the overall level in a holistic way is the local-national relationship. Our country, which is a member of United Nations, continues its efforts towards sustainable development goals within the scope of 2030 agenda at a great speed. At the same time, our country has prepared national evaluation reports including national assessments of global objectives in 2016 and 2019. We examined these studies with us and included activities carried out at the national level with local impact and report. Turkey's goals were actually equated with Sultanbeyli's goals. The country of leaving no behind in the 2030 agenda with this mentality also brings a holistic look, as Sultanbeyli, with one approach that focuses on issues. We focused on that within this approach. We consider this as approach. 25,000 refugees affected by ongoing wars and conflicts took refuge in our districts. We have carried out many activities to meet the basic needs of refugees who have taken refuge in our district to ensure their social cohesion. As you know, in 2014, we established the Refugee Center. We continue activities through that center. In our report, by referring to the services provided for refugees in which objective heading, we left no one behind when we set the targets, emphasizing social inclusivity by presenting the example of conscientiousness. This is one of the biggest. This is not one of the biggest motivators when preparing the report, of course. As Sultanbeyli, there is an inclusive and result-oriented framework that encourages all cities to take action at local level and to action at local level. We see the strong ownership of local administrators in implementation phase from non-governmental organizations as a necessity to achieve successful results. Attending United Nations High-Level Political Forum last July, presenting a voluntary local assessment report at a country level around the world. We were the first district actually to present it. We are honored and proud of this. We have shown the real value of 2030 agenda. In conclusion, 2021 Sultanbeyli Voluntary Local Evaluation Report is a logbook for us where we can track how close we are to the global goals and where we are on the 2030 agenda. With these feelings, thank you very much. Yeah, Mr. President, you're great. We see the same track what we saw in Colombia, in Colombia is carrying out special important outreach to bring the issue from high level to both country and the local area of the issue. We are proud to see one example from the local district in Turkey. And I'd like to say that I'm really happy as Turkish citizens. Mr. President, thank you very much for your contributions. The most important message I received from this presentation is that we have made one important contribution to realization of the aim of inequalities, but not leaving anyone, which hosts 20,000 refugees without leaving anyone behind who is already living there. I thank you again for your statements, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President. Yes. So thank you very much. We're really happy. So we are going back to Spain. Now we are going to Spain. Agenda 2030, Director of Barcelona, Ramon Canel Oliveras.
To our webinar, to our panel, and I would like to ask that what was your inspiration, the same for Sultanbeyli, what was your inspiration and motivation for preparing a voluntary local review report for Barcelona? And what were the challenges that you encountered during the preparation process? Thank you.
Thank you, Bahar, and thank you, the organizations, for inviting me to this ambitious Marmara Urban Forum. So regarding the inspiration, it was at first the will and to use the potential of the local autonomy in its broadest and noblest sense, because human communities need a sense of purpose and direction. And the Sustainable Development Goals provide this. And now at the historic point in which we face a number of highly complex and tremendous challenges in our cities. So since the creation of the national states, central governments have been very reluctant to allow local governments to think and to act by themselves. They prefer to have local administrations only able to deliver basic services and bureaucratic tasks ordered by the central government, which is correct. But I think that city governments should also go beyond this, because cities have their own brains, their own soul. They tend to be the places where new ideas are created, produced, and put into practice. In fact, cities are a fantastic, but also very fragile human construction, always in need to analyze its context and to adapt to a changing context. And when the context changes so fast and so deep, like now, slow and piecemeal adaptation is not enough. In that case, cities need real transformation. So the city where I work, Barcelona, is a very good example of the lights and shadows of this 21st century global cities. On the one side, we have a vibrant human community able to produce competitive goods and services, able to attract people and activity from all over the world, able to provide a reasonable quality of life, basic supplies, education, healthcare, work, public spaces, cultural life, and so on, to a population of 1.7 million, or over 5 million if we consider the metro area, and a much higher number of visitors. Before COVID, Barcelona ranked highest, together with Istanbul and some other cities, as a congress and tourism destination. On the other hand, Barcelona has clear limitations and frailties too. Economic frailties, because of its growing dependence on tourism and the difficulty to retain a strong industrial basis. Social frailties, because the cost of life due to housing has grown much faster than the salary.
Şehir. Yani turizm bizim gelir kaynağımız.
And the social protection structures. So this environmental frailties and challenges, and also political frailties, because we have a growing ideological polarization and the poorly articulated administrative levels. So in this context, we saw in Barcelona the SDGs as an opportunity to link the much needed reform agenda for collaboration across ideological, social, territorial, and party sectors, because it has been designed and approved by the international community. Sorry, one. to stop. Yeah. However, the challenges of working with the 2030 agenda and doing a VLR are not small. The first task was to adapt the global agenda's goals
Bu
and
süreci
targets
yönetmek için ilk
to
önce
the Barcelona content and
görevlerimizden
needs,
biri adapte olabilmekti.
while
Elimizde var
maintaining
olan
the spirit
şeylerle
of the
birlikte
original
adaptasyonu sağlayabilmekti. Ve bununla beraber
document. At that point, we realized that most of the SDGs targets were meaningful for the
herhangi
Barcelona.
bir özel koşul
If
olmaksızın
properly adapted. The
aktif
next step
pasif
was
ve
to
etkin bir
establish
şekilde
quantifiable targets
davranmamız
whenever
gerekir.
possible and to identify or create indicators
Elimizden ne
that could
geliyorsa onu
measure the
yaparak
situation
bu
of the
süreci
city in relation
yönetmeye
to any of the
başlamamız
adapted targets.
gerekirdi.
At this point, we saw
Bununla
that a big
beraber
and well-oiled organization like the Barcelona City Councils has lots of committed and competent people who do excellent work in its sector. So we have built our VLR on the shoulders of giants. You see here all the plans,
burada
sectoral
bütün
plans that are
planlarımızı görebiliyorsunuz.
already existing in Barcelona. They concern
Barcelona'da neler yapmaya
climate
başladığımızı
plans,
görüyorsunuz. Bunun
gender equality
içerisinde
plan,
eğitim planları
social
da
integration
var,
plan, economic
sosyal
plans, and
planlar
so
da
on.
var, ekonomik planlar da
And
var.
all this information
Ve bütün
has been very, very
bilgiler
useful to build
bizim
our
için çok
2030
verimli
agenda.
oldular. Özellikle
Not all the plans had
2030 planını yönetirken.
operational targets, not all of them had indicators, but most of them
Bütün
have them,
hepsi
and also they had worked with
içerisinde
people
etken olan
doing participatory processes.
elementleri
So we could use
barındırmıyorlardı.
all this
Ama
work done
burada
and
aslında gerçek
complete
rakamlar
what
var ve
was
bu rakamlarla
lacking
beraber
to
biz
get
bundan sonra ne
this
yapabileceğimizi
result,
takip edebiliriz.
which is
Ramon,
our BLR,
Ramon,
which
Ramon,
was issued
I would
in the
like-
end of 2020. And now we are finishing
Şu
our
anda
2021 VLR.
2020 ve 2021
Well, another challenge
süreçlerinizi
besides
yönetirken de bu rakamlara bakıyoruz ve
the cooperation among different actors has been
bunun
the
içerisinde
identification
bizim
of
birlikte
proper data
çalışmış olan
to cover
farklı
all the measurement
partiler,
of
farklı
all
aktörler
targets.
de var ve
We have a lot of data coming from
Ramon,
surveys, from opinion
Mr.
polls,
Ramon,
but
I may
still
interrupt
there are
you.
some challenges
Ramon,
in
Mr.
measuring
Ramon.
specific social phenomena. And the last challenge is to engage citizens in this process.
önümüze çıkan
Once
bir
it's
diğer
already
önemli
published, it's not so easy to get to the
önemli
citizens at
etken
neighborhood
de
level and
şudur.
to make
Bu
them
da bizim için
really
aslında bu
enthusiastic
süreci
about this
yönetmemizde
because it's quite theoretic.
engel olan
But
şeylerden biri.
we
Çünkü
need
farklı
to
partiler de var
be
ve
able to make this visible for in the everyday life of the people of
her
Barcelona.
gün günlük
And this is
yaşamımızda bize etkileyen
the
süreçleri
answer
de
to your
ele
first
aldığımızda
question.
aslında bu genele
Thank you.
yansıdığında çok farklı bir tablo çizilebiliyor. Teşekkürler.
Mr. Ramon, thank you very much. We had a bit difficulties, you also and us also. We had a bit difficulty to hear you, but as far as I understand, you're just making a good planning. This is really very wonderful, but I kindly please you to turn off when you're speaking actually for the interpretation. Then we're just hearing and you and the translator, that makes a bit problem.
Şu an
I think you-
ilk sorular yaşadığımız için
Could you when you make off, it's okay. Thank you very much.
Well, we see how important the planning process of Spain is actually. In fact, despite the fact that they condemn influenced, at first they try to overcome many problems with local level studies. But first of all, as Roman told us, the central government is working on sustainable development goals, but not that interested in these working sustainable development goals. But from now on, I think I have the same problem. We have some technical problems in interpretation. Sorry for that. Miss Bahar, I think we need to stop interpretation. So it'll be impossible to continue it like that. Can we stop the interpretation, please? Is there anyone on the technical board? Please, interpreters, could you please stop? Okay, sorry for this technical glitch. Actually, I want to say what I want to say about Barcelona, especially in the first place. Although the central government may not be able to act quickly onto the local level regarding these sustainable development goals, the problems experienced in cities at local level actually activate the central governments, because that action is taken to accelerate the work already being done for the sustainable development goals. Thank you, Mr. Ramon. At this point, I would like to return to another metropolitan municipality, Izmir of Turkey, who wrote the first report of Turkey. Mr. Ruhi Sucanal, he is the coordinator of the Urban Sustainable Development Area of Izmir. I asked him both about Sultanbeyli and Barcelona. I will ask the same question actually. What was your inspiration for preparing the local volunteer relation report for Izmir? What was your motivation and what were the challenges you faced during this voluntary local assessment? Thank you again, by the way, for joining us, and I would like to congratulate you cordially from Izmir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Ms. Bahar, both to you and especially to the valuable team of Union of Municipalities of Marmara for organizing such a meaningful event. First of all, I would like to talk a little bit about the field of urban development in Izmir. At this point, it is a network founded in 2019. Actually, it's a sustainable development network in Turkey. The number of members has reached 30,000 in Turkey. Urban Development Network is the local structure of this. We established this in 2020 under the leadership of the Metropolitan Municipality of Izmir. This network was formed with the participation of 25 district municipalities in total. Izmir Urban Development Area has one basic goal. What do I really mean by this structure which is operating the institutionalization of the Sustainable Development Goals as well as the placement of Sustainable Development Goals that we are actually talking about? What we mean by this institutionalization is actually put forward a new one governance model. The governance model literally defines the purpose of Izmir Sustainable Urban Development Network. As of today, there are professional chambers, representatives on the industry, business world, universities, civil society leaders, representatives of international organizations, and representatives of our 25 district sustainable offices in Izmir within one urban development area. We have one basic goal. We are trying to figure out what sustainability means, and we are trying to make it become the urban agenda. And we are trying to make our citizen to be subject, to be involved in decision-making process in the city agenda. In fact, to activate the city abroad by including the basic politics, I would like to say that our world that we are living is a world of crises, and there are many local jobs and there are many responsibilities. If we go back to the scale of Izmir, the last 2 years, Izmir experienced perhaps one of the biggest fires in history. Even one earthquake was among the largest earthquakes in history. When there are artifact raids, we even saw this in tsunami as well. It came on pandemic. I'm saying that Izmir is very suitable with these crises. At this point, there is a need for an inclusive city structure to remanage the city, and we believe that only in this way we can fight this crisis. So what do we understand by this inclusive city? To able to carry the process to forward to this point with the participation of Izmir citizens and city actors. This is what it means. The videos are actually the processes we call the Voluntary Local Evaluation Report, which is one phase for this. For us, Izmir Voluntary Local Evaluation Report was prepared within the framework of one city alliance model with the participation of all urban actors I have just mentioned. This is the first in Turkey on a metropolitan scale. As you can imagine, Izmir is the third largest city in Turkey. At this point, we have taken care to get the contributions of all kinds of urban actors so that this report can come out as well as possible. As I have just said, this report was prepared in about 8 months, or with one participation of industry and business world, non-governmental organizations and local governments, universities, and all these urban actors. Of course, I would like to mention some of the first reports of this as well. In this report, we did many things. First of all, we had workshop training series, and many workshops and trainings were organized. More than 500 participants participated in these workshops and trainings, presented their own opinions and suggestions. Their opinions and suggestions were taken, and this report was written. We had one coordination board during the writing process of this report. This coordination board is with people who want to contribute to this entire report. And there was another board, the advisory board. We established an advisory board in the process of writing this report. This advisory board is made of experts who are doing really good in the field of sustainability in Turkey. With their opinions, suggestions, and guidance, this report has been prepared and will be delivered to the United Nations in revised form as of this month. Of course, we need to talk a little bit about the content. We first explained our methodology in the content of this report. In addition, we included it in the organizational chart or in the report so that the other cities will be inspired. The other world cities that want to write this report should know that they create their organizational charts in a way that suits their own dynamics. Of course, one of the most important places in this report is to analyze the current situation of the city related to all 17 targets, and we have made current situation analysis of the city at this point in a way that touches all 17 targets. And there are all important statistics of each of the 17 goals. Important statistical data are available. Of course, I have to say that this here in particular, we know very well that today there are 17 global goals as well as 1,696 matches and 232 global indicators. The most important aspect of the Izmir Voluntary Local Evaluation Report is by placing these indicators and reinterpreting them in a way that is completely appropriate to the dynamics of Izmir. Having defined 100 targets and 160 sub-indicators specific to Izmir, we aim to measure these targets and indicators regularly in upcoming periods to define the place of Izmir in the development agenda through these indicators. In particular, I would like to emphasize that Izmir Voluntary Local Evaluation Report touched on 3 issues that are often discussed. Today, we know that lack of one cultural dimension in this sustainable development goal is being still discussed. In this report, we have taken care to include dimensions of human rights and cultural and digital democracy, and Izmir carries one big claim in the human rights issue. Together with Izmir Bar Association, Vision Partnership of Human Rights Capital has been prepared. In this context, important studies are being carried out in the city, which we have included in this report. Just last month, one very important summit was held in relation to culture. The Cultural Summit in Russia hosted this event, the 14th century in the world. In the conference, the participants discussed the universal reinterpretation of the culture and role of the culture in sustainable development in Izmir. We were also very proud to host it. Finally, in dimension related to digital democracy, we have one digital platform that we have created as Izmir. This is a platform that allows online participation of the city so that they can follow all kinds of activities. Finally, if we need to sum up, we have included the pool-sized approach and region-sized one approach in this report. In the Voluntary Local Evaluation Report, we try to figure out the development agenda, how their development agenda is, especially in the parts other than the metropolitan areas, and we try to figure out what are the strategic targets set by district municipalities in relation to this. We tried to emphasize this in particular, but one of the most important points we identified was the data analysis part of this reporting process. We know that we need to work harder on the data. At this point, we need standardization. We also want to design institutional mechanisms related to the upcoming period. Thank you so much again for allowing me to talk. Izmir Voluntary Local Evaluation Report is revised as of October to all of our stakeholders. Thank you. Very valuable talk. We are really proud of this. I would like to share again that we're really happy to take part in the writing process of this report in both Sultanbeyli and Izmir. There were very valuable messages. In Ruhi Su Canal, in his speech, he touched upon the importance of the coordination without differentiating stakeholders from the city stakeholders in any way. He said that this report, written by young people of the city, doctoral students, master students, or bachelor's degree students. So with the Turkish, with giant team, they have tried to transfer the watershed-based approach of Izmir's spatial situation to these studies without avoiding anything by taking the opinions of many people, many professors, many academicians, many NGOs, many policymakers. This valuable team is assisted by the coordination of the stakeholders of Izmir's Sustainable Urban Development Network involved in this work. We would like to thank them. Now I would like to turn to Vural Çakır, the head of the English department. As Hüseyin Bey said, data is important. Data is extremely important when it comes to increasing efficiency. At this point, I know that Mr. Vural has done very valuable work on human development. The human development approach and the agenda link between 2030 and the Human Development Index are really interconnected, and we want them to tell us a little bit about the relationship between them and about the measurements. And measurements are really valuable in these issues related to human development on a local scale. Is the data here sufficient? Is it reliable? We'll be really glad if you share your experiences in this regard. Thank you. The floor is yours. Hello. Welcome. I think you can hear me. Thank you very much, everyone. Hello, everyone. As you mentioned, I have a reminder. We have been working on this issue in INEGÖL since 2016, and since 2016 we have been publishing a development index covering 200 districts. Every year we started to cover 30 metropolitan cities as of last year. All of these details are available on our website. We use 80 indicators for the districts, for the district index. We use 208 indicators in the Metropolitan Human Development Index. These indexes are divided into subcategories such as anti-equalities index, social coverage index, social life, gender equality, standard of living, and so on. And the results are announced with one ceremony with the mayors. And on the top of that, 2 months ago, a Metropolitan Sharing Platform initiative started with Sabancı University, the Center of Politics in Istanbul. There was Spain again in this project. There was Mayor of Mannheim. There too, we tried to share good examples with each other by local governments and metropolitan administrators. Now I'm making this introduction, but let's expand this information a little bit more into two main headings about my past profession. I will focus on two things. One is positioning or placement, and the second is the localization of the data set. So I will start with the first one. Those who are engaged in development know for many years. They acted on things like gross national product or per capita income and so on. By the way, let me say that averages are very toxic things. If not taken care of, the whole point of view might be changed. They can poison you. You should use it carefully as possible. And then, they emphasized that this was not enough. And there was another program developed. It was said that increasing the human capacity is important and is important for development. And as a result, UNDP in 2019, they presented the Human Development Index, and countries immediately developed, and the index was launched, and countries were ranked. They were classified accordingly. But now, let me underline this. When we're talking about sustainable development matches, as Mr. Canbey said, but there's one missing point that he didn't say. We tried to complete it, but yes, in Izmir, the concept of human development itself is idea, in fact. But I think this human development idea should guide all the studies, and idea is more important than the individual indicators. As you know, in the 5th of 2010, we are already talking about countries have largely abstracted the idea and accepted the one system that we are talking about to settle on the table, which we call global goals. So let's close attention to the English here. There have been 11 positioning changes. Human development was sustainable development from now on. It came out immediately. It became sustainable addition. So we can always give it to the beginning of almost every sentence. We can talk about it, as you already know. When we start loading, both of them have the common word Turkish translation, but now one of them has changed. Now, all right. The big districts, as you know, are actually intertwined with sustainable development goals indicators and targets themselves. We'll be touching upon them later on, but the position of the human development is important in terms of why human development is maybe 3 points. Actually, they're action-oriented, and the citizen is constantly warm, more in touch with the sciences also. This is different from the central government. So, a human development is an easy concept. Maybe I can say that Kadıköy district has become the first sustainable development goal, was the first city which achieved the sustainable development goals targeting Kadıköy. But it'll be easier to say that that positioning is really important, because Kadıköy was really successful in terms of the communication, to spread the communication. And secondly, an independent and reliable institution should be evaluating this process, not one service performance, because local rulers are also political figures. We should never neglect this, and it's important for them at this point. Therefore, it's important to measure human development independently in a way to put into classification. And it's important to put it into a performance criteria. And all the meetings, as I mentioned, the ceremonies should be, Sultanbeyli might be an example. And by the way, Istanbul Municipality attract a lot of attention. So, whole index in human development studies are important. So, all of them should incorporate the human, should be incorporated into everyday life, because at the end of the day, the whole concept of human development, national and local media and social media, is very common, and it's really interlinked with the performances taken from them. And so there are a lot of things that we need to focus in terms of positioning and local positioning, but local positioning here is important. And it should stay abstract, away from the other concepts, and should place above the daily life. And we need to avoid risk of translating, and this is something that we need to pay attention. Another point is the localization of the goals and indicators. I think I'm one of the hardworking people in Turkey in working on this. Therefore, the sustainable development goals the study says that 20% can be included in the sustainable development goals, but they say that little percent of them can be included. But there is no general rule in this case. Depends on the accordance with the administrative structures and distribution of authority of the countries. So, rather than general speaking, it's more about these two things. I mean, goals and indicators. It's about localization and decentralization of these two concepts, which needs to be combined with the powers of the initiatives of local governments so that it penetrates into life, that, which is also, I always emphasizing, sometimes, there are some works, but all of them are really important. Therefore, all of the indicator sets and the goals are important, but we are talking about the goals, the localization of goals on the local level, not the local level, but global level. So we're not talking about the Sultanbeyli or Kadıköy, but the indicators and goals and the target status should be prepared on a global scale, like Turkey, for example, and they should be abstract. I think with the cooperation 2 years, we made a special theoretical study to see how much of target indicators we use in the human development that can be processed with the targets. And in that study, we used 70% of the 208 indicators in the Human Development Index. And in metropolitan cities, it's 73%. And in districts, 30% of the goals were addressed. So it's really important that the data is settled and objectively settled and localized. And it should be very abstract. By the way, let me say this as well. In all of these intensive work, since 2016, with the coordination of Murat Şeker, we worked really hard. By the way, of course, we're working really hard, but we are working in cooperation. We are working on an open portal in which all the districts can learn about and they can track their process. And there's a great data platform, and it should be updated all the time. Of course, the data in data science, the updating problem is one of the most common one. I hope in the next years or months, every district will be monitoring the goals and targets in sustainable development in one single platform. So thank you. Let me recap again. Of course, we know the importance of data in terms of reliability of the data, importance of the data collection. All of them are interlinked. The critical point is that the positioning of the sustainable development on a local scale should be internalized. It should not be discarded and disregard. The data sets and the targets should be evaluated independently and concretely on a global scale. Thank you very much. And I would like to congratulate the Union of Marmara Municipalities once again. Thank you. Yes, in this presentation, we understood the importance of data in terms of reliability of the data, importance of data collection, the terms being able to analyze data, and you defined the human development as a sustainable development. And he conveyed the past process on this subject, but he pointed out one important thing. Just like Sultanbeyli and Barcelona, like in Izmir, it's very valuable to have ownership at highest level. On a country basis, we have seen on the example of Colombia, in order to convey to the public what studies done here are, to ensure that the public embraces it, we actually need to use one plain language. We know that it is a humanitarian study, and it's important to evaluate these studies to ensure stakeholder participation. Thank you very much, Mr. Bulay. We follow your work very carefully. We'll be back to you again. Now, my dear teacher, Dr. Tamer Atabarut will be presenting his speech. Yes, you're one of the students of a very beloved Professor Kriton Jury. May God rest his soul. The issues he raised are again on the agenda, hot, after 30 years. I would like to ask you, as the director of former SS Turkey, I will be asking questions about the assessing the country performances of sustainable development goals, the preparation of voluntary national and local evaluation reports since 2010. And SS Turkey has significant experience in Turkey in this sense. And in light of these experiences, what's the benefit of these countries and local governments to produce voluntary evaluation reports? There are some problems in data on a local basis, but how are the things on a global scale? What are the opportunities that we have in front of us? What can you tell us about them? Thank you very much, Mr. Bahar. Thank you for letting me speak. I would like to thank the Union of Municipalities of Marmara, and thank you. And also, there are 3 cities that I would like to live: Izmir, Istanbul, and Barcelona. I'm really happy to see them. Later on, Mr. Vulat has just summarized very well how important data is. We listened to both Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Rose. What are the problems of accessing them on a local scale, or how they can be overcome? In addition, when we look at global, we have seen the country's approach of Colombia while listening from Barcelona in terms of the city. Now, I think what matters here is the importance of the cities. As you, Ms. Bahar, as you said in the opening speech, we have been seeing a migration from countryside to the city. And there are some indicators that by 2050, 2/3 of the population will be living in urbanized cities. These are very effective as democratic structures. When we look at it now, we also look at as a financial structure. When we look at it financially, when we look at globally, we see that 80% of this is resulted by the urbans. So therefore, both the production here is the production is big locomotive cities, and it's one of the most obvious reasons. But it's also very important in terms of impact they produce and give. It uses almost 70% of resources. When we look at the global waste, 50% of it comes from cities. Again, in greenhouse gas emissions, there are emissions up to 60, 70, 80. So there is one such importance of talking about city. We'll achieve 1 development goals in 2030. And the point where we will move here is local surplus government, cities and regional formations. Therefore, we have 17 sustainable development goals. And if you want to reach them, we also see that many of them intricately intertwined. So from this perspective, our approach focuses on 6 transformation points. In these transformation points, sustainable cities are defined in terms of communities. Again, from this point of view, we have been measuring the performances of countries globally for 6 years for continuous development purposes, and we are evaluating and publishing them. Last report was the 2021, and it was published in June. When we look at these reports in terms of the countries, we see that Northern European countries are a little ahead of the other countries. We see that our country is a little behind, unfortunately, and our country is on the 17th place. So while making the evaluations, we make it in the global as a country. We also have studies on the basis of the cities. On the other hand, the United States is pioneer at this. If we have an index with more than 105 cities, I think it's it's included in the 2016 and 2020. And here we can track the countries based on their sustainable development goals. There was one report recently published in Italy. So we initiated a work with Sultanbeyli, who accessed the data and security. Later, afterwards, our work continued with İzmir Metropolitan Municipality. Here, we experienced how difficult it is to access the data. First of all, they are data, but it's very scattered, and we need an effort to understand them. But we solve the difficulty of this. Therefore, there are some studies that the statistical institution has recently done on this issue, especially in Turkey. It seems that it will make easier to do access to those data sets thanks to them. Here, of course, there is a data at its core, but access to data is access to data. It's really important, and the data should be comparable. In context of the statistic quality is also important, and the scope of it is important, and the data set should be updated. Here I would like to underline that if we are going to reach the goals that we set in the world in 2030, we need to move from local to nationwide here. Here, there's a big responsibility in academic circles and in networks. I believe the academics play a crucial role in this regard. We already see this many studies because we see that many institutions are involved in these studies together with academicians, and they try to make them mortal, and they want to increase participation. So academics have a crucial role. The other is the networks like us, because we can provide information flow in networks, and this is also the flow of information, and it ensures the comparability. Thank you very much for again. This is what I would like to say. Okay, so I think we have 17 minutes from now. Actually, I want a little bit faster in this round. I would like to ask some questions in both Turkish and English. I would like you to answer it in 2 minutes. But first of all, let's recap what Dr. Tamer Ataburut said. The freshness of the quality data sets and their collection is valuable, and the importance of valuable academics and institutions working on this issue is really crucial. And there is one unofficial report by SDSN, but it's very important, but it should be up to date. And we always not have to be afraid of the valuable data. We know that there are many points that are given, but we're not sharing the data, but reproducing the data poses a threat. Therefore, I would like to draw attention to the successful studies carried out by Turkish Statistical Institution in Turkey in the recent period. They work on the subsections of the objectives on sustainability attracts a lot of attention. Thank you for raising the issue here, Mr. Tamer. Here, in the second part, I would like to ask this question. So the question we would like to ask, what you have learned while writing this voluntary local and national evaluation report? How this helped us? What was the benefit to our citizens? As Morales has just stated, citizens should embrace this issue. It creates both social, economic, and environmental benefits. And what kind of thing do you think provides benefits in these regards?
Just, I would like to run the second round in 2 minutes. Could you please answer?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to answer the second question, we have to be very clear that although the Sustainable Development Goals correspond to global goals, their achievement depends on the ability to make them a reality in cities, regions, and municipalities. It is at this scale that goals and targets, implementation tools, as well as the use of monitoring indicators must be defined. The local and national review movement is itself an opportunity for cities and partners for cities, to partner with other cities or private and other public stakeholders in similar methodologies and lessons, and highlights the importance of recognizing the local contribution to the sustainable development dialogue and collective global agenda. Therefore, we believe that these reports allow cities to share experiences, challenges, and other lessons with a global audience, increasing a municipality's visibility in the world and opening the doors and a new window of opportunity to international partnerships that can promote those local sustainability goals. So this, we believe, amplified the community voices over local challenges addressed at the national report. One of the limitations in existing experiences are in the applicability of the proposed indicators and targets. So there are disparities in the production quality and access to local data. This is something that we have found it's a little bit complicated for our case here in Colombia. And it shows that while some local governments do not have sufficient data to evaluate their progress on the sustainable development goals, others have more resources, capacities, and more robust information to showcase what they have accomplished in the last couple of years. There's also a lack of knowledge and appropriation of the 2030 agenda, and we need more technical experts at the local level in order to contribute to this national report. So we also believe that the alignment of the Sustainable Development Goals with local agendas requires not only adequate information at the local level, but also the appropriation of the 2030 agenda at the public sector in general, which is something that we definitely need to work a little bit more to accomplish. The articulation between the national and local reports reveals also some challenges in terms of the applicability of indicators and challenges. Also, I think that this is particularly pervasive in our case in Colombia. Like, indicators are not necessarily defined in the same way between the national government and the local government, because those are defined sometimes like following some local demand procedures or some local interests that are also promoted by politicians at the local government. So there is some type of homogenization that must be achieved. Finally, what we have seen is that despite all these challenges, the multi-scale coordination between national and local reviews show a very pressing need for multi-stakeholder perspective in the implementation of the 2030 agenda. All scales and stakeholders must be involved in order to achieve, as you definitely know, the Sustainable Development Goals before the 2030, I'm sorry. So both experiences at the local level as well as those compiled information at the national level become very important tools, not only for the country in like fulfilling this global agenda, but also it becomes an important reference for other cities and countries in the world.
Thank you very much, Juan. So, Mr. Hüseyin, can we get your views on this issue? What was your most important lesson in the process of writing voluntary local assessment? Thank you very much. When we look back at this process, what this process gained us, what the effects we can get, I can say briefly that we will be able to evaluate the district from a more holistic perspective. I even looked at the figures last night. soon we will sit down with our friends and work on it. There are data where the possibilities are nice from our point of view. There are many different data, of course, as a result. As I said, we will evaluate them with our colleagues and continue our work accordingly. This framework will provide all institutions providing services in the district with the opportunity to analyze the effects of the services and make their services plans more efficiently. Another benefit is that public institution NGOs at all levels all our citizens will be able to monitor the development of the district transparently. Thus, a more participatory process will be implemented throughout the district. And it will be reflected more in the decision-making process that we call common sense. For example, this Monday we have one workshop that we organized with NGOs again. We are coming together with them more within the scope of this project. And this is very beneficial for us and for our districts. And with the effect of the increasing interinstitutional dialogue in this report preparation process, interinstitutional and data exchange will accelerate. And I think data management will be provided at the internal and institutional level will be more. We've done a study with one university, of course, not very municipality or in our municipality would like to do that, but as Mr. Ruhi said, you share easily, you share your reports. There are some handicaps, of course, but there are also things that party cards can use. There are some clues that they can get use of it. And the study that we conducted with university, for example, the interinstitutional deficiency was revealed in the first place, a lack of dialogue had emerged, and as we identify our current situation and clearly set our 2030 goals, we'll be able to establish more partnerships to serve sustainable development goals. We also included report in one development area every one time and scope of our services for a refugee population. The principle of leaving no one behind will be spread around the city, and we emphasize this throughout the report. After the 2021 report, Sultanbeyli can continue our first step to establish a development monitoring and evaluation board. We will be coming together with all institutions providing services at local level in order to achieve the 2030 targets. And Mr. Speaker, we have 7 minutes and we have more than 4 minutes. Could you please wrap up? All right. I owe a debt of gratitude to Marmara Municipalities Union, our esteemed teachers, stakeholders, participants, colleagues, especially you who contributed to the preparation of the reports and the foundations. I offer my regards to all of you. I understood. Okay, I understood you. So to help you, I just try to wrap up everything right away. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to Ramon.
What are the main message from
Thank
this
you.
BLR report?
I agree with
process?
all. I agree with what my colleague said, and I would just add that the BLR allows us to create better knowledge, which is also suited to make better policies, and also to raise the awareness, public awareness on the urgency of the moment and promote action. But to reach this, we need to be really transparent. So this information should be provided through open data. Either it's if the results are good or bad. And in Barcelona, we have now uploaded all our data in this open SDG platform, which is made for states, but cities are increasingly joining it. And also it's important to make more research about the links between SDGs, if they are synergetic or they are conflictual, so to see what happens, and also the links between policies and impacts. And this is not that easy. So one thing is to collect data, and the other thing is to interpret it and to take some conclusions which are useful for policymakers. So that's all. Thank you for the invitation. And the next time. Thank you.
Great. This is a great summary with better knowledge, better policies that I will translate at the end if I have time. I thank you very much deeply from my heart.
Dear Ruhi Sujanal, I would like to ask you to tell us what is the benefit of this data report within 1 minute. All right, let me answer your question briefly. First of all, when we were preparing this report, we took care to emphasize that this is not Metropolitan Municipality report, but this is a report to the city. Because wherever we are in the world, we speak the same language. I agree with what Mr. Errol says. Such reports are actually among our stakeholders, among other world cities, and it's important tool. It provides enormous tool for us to use the same language. As Mr. Chairman said, we determined that we need their knowledge on how to follow and on the district municipality level. Actually, this is a very important issue because Mr. Vula said both human development, sustainable development are the similar things, but the important part here is to know that this is embodied. We need to be able to bring it down to life. Just like creating one classical music, you will need good hands, you need an orchestra, you need one good conductor, of course. If we want to be on the great report, if we want to be at good points, we need to go forward in the scope of sustainable development. The notes were already given by the United Nations in 2015, but the most important issue was the delivery of data and standardization. We know that we really need to make progress on this. By developing our partners with the other institutions and organizations, using district sustainability office more effectively, we want to be more forward in the next things ahead. Thank you very much. Orchestra was a really great analogy. Yes, Mr. Worrell, let's get back to you. I'd like to hear your opinion. Ms. Bahar, yes, let me repeat again. Internalization, bringing everything to the deep inside of the society is really important and should be realistic. For example, I know the process of preparing strategic plan of the municipality of Izmir. As you know, as required by law, a strategic plan is needed and prepared in every 5 years and reviewed in 2 years. In annual municipalities prepare activity reports. And I had the opportunity to watch the preparation of the municipality report from a distance. They have done all of this work. Well, in their activity reports, the main point here, by the way, I would like to repeat, the concept of human development is a very basic idea, but sustainable development goal is very valuable as well. But the more important thing is to figure out how we can integrate this into the system. I hope Can Bey, Mr. Hüseyin will be here again, but might not be here too. But this central coordination and harmony matter should be integrated into the system. Municipalities will make a strategic plan on one hand, but on the other hand, they will make a voluntary local review, and then they will make an annual activity report, and each of them will prepare their own reports. So all of these points should be in harmony with each other. I don't know the administrative structure in Colombia, but I think they have the clues. The important clues are there in Colombia. They need to be combined with each other. Otherwise, municipalities will repeat the same strategic plans over and over again. So activity supports will be locally, other version or something like that will go one by one. I think harmony is local coordination of the center. And in cooperation and creation of the legal frameworks in a reasonable way is important in terms of keeping our feet on the ground of society and penetrating into society. Thank you very much, Mr. Tamer. If you want, we can conclude our session with you. Our last seconds. Yes, sir, floor is yours. I think this gives a signal of taking action. As you said, We are on the last 8 years of the 10 years of action. A few days ago, one of our speakers says that there is a lack of action, but we talk a lot. But reports are important for us to take action, because from here we can set goals, take steps to achieve them. The first one is that everything is difficult, but next one will be easier. And I would like to thank everyone, every stakeholder who made valuable contributions. And I hope, and I strongly believe that we will achieve the 2030 goals thanks to their cooperation. Thank you. Yes, I would like to thank all our participants today. We were with the first National City Forum organized by Union of Municipalities of Marmara. I would like to thank UN Habitat, INGE, and UNESCO Turkey. And of course, thanks to Union of Municipalities of Marmara. And I would like to thank to the technical desk for their support at the moment. For your question, you can email to these organizations. Thank you very much. I like to wish everyone a beautiful, cheerful, and healthy, happy weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We thank you all. There was a bit problems, but it is always this. We are just, we are resilient. We have to manage it. And I thank you very much, all of you, for this comprehension. Sometimes there were problems, but the main theme is that we are all working on the same agenda from different parts of the world. And I thank all of you for your contributions, for your invaluable contributions. And we hope to host you one day at Istanbul. And very warm best regards from here, Istanbul.
That will be
And also
lovely.
from
Thank you.
Izmir and from Sultanbeyli. So we thank you.
Evet, nice weekend. İyi hafta sonları herkese.
İyi hafta sonları.
Görüşmek üzere
Hoşçakalın.
Tamer'cığım.
I have to leave
Hoşçakalın.
now.
Hoşçakalın.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.